Hi,
Okay,
can you hear me?
we are
Oh,
live. Good morning, everybody. Hey.
hi, good morning.
Good morning. S is trying to join us. She's having a little bit of technical difficulties, but she's still planning on hopping on. So, good morning to everybody who is watching. We're so glad that you're here. This is really exciting. This is really exciting.
Yeah, I'm trying to
um,
add the link to my Instagram right now. Quickly adding.
so yeah, today is the kickoff of the second half of the month's live author chats. We did a whole bunch of these at the beginning of the month around New Year's for a big blitz. And we had over 20 authors join for those, and those are all in the recordings on YouTube if anybody's joining in for the first time on this one and they want to watch the others. Um, but today we have Day and we have Becca and we have S that are joining us, and we're going to talk about YA, paranormal, and fantasy romance for 2022. So, um, why don't we just start off with introducing ourselves? I know we all have different ranges of experience here. So, Day, I'm going to let you start, and then we're going to go sort of counterclockwise around the wheel.
Perfect.
Hello everyone, my name is Daily Tom. I'm Brazilian. I live in Canada and I write YA, a lot of romantic fantasy, a lot of enemies to lovers. I have a new release today. I have to show it because it's pretty. And I'm super excited to be here and talk to you guys.
Perfect. Okay. I'm Becca. I write fantasy romance and also dark fantasy. And I've got 4 books out. My latest was Needlework, which was a YA fantasy about a group of musicians traveling in a summer solstice festival. It's a music and arts festival, and they kind of get wrapped up in this the politics that are happening within the kingdoms that they're traveling in. And then I've got 2 anthologies coming out later this year, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, this is fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Becca is also very, very vocal in the indie author community by featuring different indie authors like every day almost. Anytime there's a new release, it goes up on her profile. So she's my main indie book dealer basically.
I try,
Just hooks me up with
I've
all the indie
definitely kind of
books.
dropped the ball this month because I'm about to head to Arkansas for treatment. So I'm a little frazzled and all over the place. But yeah, I try. I try to be on top of things, and anytime someone's got a new release happening, DM me, let me know, and I'll try and help you.
And I'm Katherine D. Graham. I'm a fantasy author. I don't write a lot of YA, although I do have what's going to be sort of a cross between a YA new adult in 2023. But I do love this genre, and I read and review this genre a lot for Readsy Discovery. So I'm excited just to be here with you guys. I was sharing with Day earlier that when I first started into this industry, Day was one of the first authors that I saw, and I was just like, whoa. So it's so surreal because as much as I have seen, your name, and as much as I've seen Becca on Instagram, I've never actually talked to you guys. Ah, and S is here. Hey!
It worked!
We
Welcome
were
to the
just
party.
introducing ourselves, so you're just in time to tell everybody who's viewing who you are.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so I am S. McPherson, Shalina, but author name S. McPherson, and I write new adult, YA to new NA fantasy, and I've written 2 children's books when I was just starting out, and 1 self-development handbook. And I like to dance and I like to dress up.
I love it.
I love your Instagram is so amazing. I
Hey
love it.
Montrez, hi Melissa, who are watching.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
if you guys are watching live, it's so good to have you. You can drop any comments you have. I know this is streaming on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, so drop your questions in the comments as we talk, and we will try to answer them. But this is an epic group of authors right here. I'm just saying. All right. So now that we know who each other are, I guess a little bit, let's talk about 2022. Oh my goodness. 2022 is a big year for a lot of people. I've heard people that are using this year to really write a lot for future years, and then other authors that are like, I've got a ton of things coming out this year. So since we sort of went clockwise, let's go vice versa this time. And I'll go last again. So S, you can start, and then Becca, and then Day, and then I'll go last. What's coming out in 2022?
Okay, so I have book 1 in my latest series coming out in a month, called Echoes of the Crown. So the series is called A Court of Echoes, and book 1 is coming out next month. And then I'm hoping, my plan is within the first, 4 or 5 months from the first book, I want to release the second book. And then fingers crossed, the third book by the end of this year. So maybe November, December time. And then I'm also working on like what I'm calling now the Operation Secret Project, because it's just brewing in my mind. But the aim for that one is to hopefully try Vela, which I keep hearing about but haven't tried. So that's me. So hopefully 3 to 4 projects this year.
That's
That's
amazing.
really exciting. So is Vela still US only? Or does Vela, is it international now?
No, so apparently I can upload on there, but I can't read books on there. It's very strange. Yeah, really strange. But I was like, okay, well, let me just try it and see what it's like.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a lot of books. That's a lot of books.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
What about you, Becca? What's going on in 2022? Because I know you've got big plans for February that are not writer related too.
Yeah, I know. My year is going to be a little bit different. Because I have a chronic illness, and I'm going into treatment for the next 3 months. In about a week. So I'm a little like frazzled. There's a lot happening. But yeah, so in April, I am part of this Once Upon a Name anthology, and I've got a short story going in it, which I'm really excited about. It's a cooking competition, but set in a fantasy setting. So they're, cooking up all sorts of different foods, Minotaur meat, it's going there. And then I have another short story coming out in a different anthology in June. And that one is called A Series of Unfortunate Meet Cutes. And it's a bunch of romances, different genre, or not different genres, different, we're all kind of like doing different types of romances. I think mostly happily ever after, but we'll see. It's not like, I'm not really sure. But yeah, so I've got a fantasy romance that I'm writing for that one, which I'm super excited about. It's my own spin on a fairy tale. So there's, a curse, and there's, a big adventure with a prince and a girl, and yeah. So yeah, and then I have the very beginnings of a new fantasy duology I'm gonna start working on in the summertime, but that won't be published for probably a little while. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, and Becca has been fundraising for her treatment too, for anybody that's viewing. She's auctioned off amazing book boxes and stuff, and like I said, is very supportive and vocal of the indie community. So as I'm dropping people's links in the comments, if you're interested in following us, her link is in there too, and keeping up with all the book news, you can click and follow her there. If you'd like to donate to Becca and help make sure she can get there funded, then you can do that by clicking as well. So,
really nice.
Day, what does 2022 look like for you as far as the writing goes?
I'm feeling like such a noob. You guys have to plan ahead. Okay, so I'm releasing this today. In case you didn't know, I'm reminding you. And I'm writing the sequel for this. It's a duology. It's YA. It's really YA. upper YA, but YA fantasy, romantic fantasy, and with family, many characters. And what I have is the sequel for this, and then after that, whatever inspiration strike, I have no idea what I'm doing next. So that's it. Those are my plans.
Yeah, but you've
Amazing.
got
Happy
so
release
many
day.
books under your belt and
Yeah,
everything.
happy
I was
release
looking
day.
at your Amazon and I'm like, man, they could lead a webinar on how in the world you got 600 Amazon reviews. Just, oh.
I don't have 600 Amazon reviews. No. But yeah. But what I find is I have rushed before for the third book, but then and readers are like, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? And then I rush it, and then they like 4 stars. No, 3 stars. It was good, but it felt a little rushed. I'm not complaining. They're right, but the thing is, this is gonna stay here in my. I think it's gonna stay there forever. I could sell it like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So 1 month, 2 months doesn't make that much of a difference right now. So I don't want to rush the sequel. That's what I'm saying. I'm not complaining. Whoever said some of my books might have felt rushed, I think they're right, and I think it's a good thing to think about.
Mm. Oh, that's so good. And I just shared the link to Day's newest book. That's Frozen Hearts and Death Magic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in the comments. And the photo, just the cover art, all of you guys have pretty cover art. And it just blows me away. I love it. Because I'm one of those people that I know you should not judge a book by its cover. But I'm definitely hooked by a book's cover.
Same.
It's like, I must have this book. My bookshelf needs this book. So
Yeah.
It looks so pretty there.
Exactly. You want to like display it.
So yeah, this year, I feel like I'm the newbie author here. All of you guys with all this experience, and I've got one novel out right now, and that's The Vow That Twisted Fate. And yes, I'm so excited.
I loved it.
But this year has just been a crammed year of writing stuff for me, too. I'm in the Realm of Darkness box set, which is going to have 40 full-length novels by best-selling and award-winning authors that are paranormal romance and fantasy romance. But it's not just YA. So if you're a viewer and you're on here just looking for YA, there's a few YA authors in there, but there's also some new adult authors like me, and then adult steamy in there. So it's everything from clean, cut to window, all the way up to open door. Lots of chili peppers going on in the set. So
That's
Splitting
nice.
Dawn is my book in there, and I've been working on revising it to get it ready. And I have 2 novellas in that series, because this will be, the one in the Splitting Dawn will be the first full-length novel in that set. But I've done other side character that are not in that book novellas, and then working on Starfire Express, which got pushed back to next year, but it'll be for the best, I think, in the end. So yeah. Montrez says, you ladies have beautiful cover art.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk a second about questions. I got a few questions before the live, and then I've got one question. And anybody who's watching, if you have questions, feel free to drop them as well. But the main question I got was, what kind of female protagonists do you write the most in your books? So, warrior, damsel in distress, what kind of female protagonists do you guys like to write?
Should I start?
Yeah, anybody can start.
Okay.
Okay. I would say probably the more powerful ones, but understated. So they're strong characters, but they kind of more introverts, keep to themselves. But if they have to, like, don't poke the bear sort of girls. Yeah. And then when you do, they snap.
Our pets are making appearances.
I know. We just jumped in my lap. I'm sorry. I love that.
I think I write people with inner magic mostly, and they have to figure it out. But I have had a protagonist without magic. They are strong. They're not necessarily warrior types. One of them is, but usually they're, yeah. I don't know. It's weird to say it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I would say I write female protagonists who have a mind of their own. Very, usually very stubborn. Um, Sometimes they're more on the warrior side of things. Other times, like in needlework, my main character Melly, she definitely has a heart, has a mind of her own, but she is still kind of figuring out things. So,
Yeah.
I like there to be quite a bit of development for a female character during their character arc in that particular story. So yeah, I would say just they have a mind of their own. They're very like independent, strong-willed, stubborn women.
Yeah, those are the women I like.
Yeah. Right? Like I try and write like the characters that you would want to be your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My characters don't ever seem to follow any one pattern. Like in Val, she's a very naive young woman at the beginning, and then by the end, it's just there's a spoiler, and she just has to grow up, basically. And then in Splitting Dawn, Splitting Dawn, she doesn't need no man, and she doesn't take anything from anybody, and she's just the total opposite of Arla. And then in Starfire Express, I actually have a character who's just very, very in between. I don't know. She's got her own unique flaws and her own unique strengths. Just they're all so different from each other that it's hard to say I write female protagonists that are like this.
Yeah.
But maybe that means that some people will read and they'll be like, okay, well, this book relates to me, and this book relates to me, and this book relates to me. So
Exactly. Varied.
Yeah.
So we're talking romance here. Romance a little bit, because let's just admit we all really like those dark book boyfriends a little bit.
Yeah.
What level of steam can readers find in our books was another question we got.
Oh man, I'm trying to become more comfortable with it. Like, I am not like super comfortable being like super steamy. Because like I feel like I don't know. I start overthinking, and I'm like, does that sound weird? Maybe, probably. So, I like to add a bit of romance. I think a bit of romance. It's there, but it's quite understated. I would say the story I'm working on right now, Midnight Petals, which is going in the Unfortunate Meet Cute romance anthology. That this one has like the most romance of like any one I've ever read, or not read, but read. Anyone that I've ever written. I can't but yeah, that's
Yeah. I would say all my books have romance. It's definitely fantasy romance, and there's usually either like a fated mate or a forbidden love or some kind of trope on that spectrum. I usually, like in my YA series, it's not spicy at all. Like it's there's kisses and stuff, but it's kind of it evolves as the characters age, but it doesn't get like explicit or anything like that. And then same with the new adult ones, kind of it's more like there's slow burn, and there will be some hanky panky, but it's not like explicit. But then I don't fade, but I just don't go like heavy details. So that's kind of my level. I would say like maybe 2 chili peppers, I think.
Yeah. What about
That
you,
evolve?
Yeah, I'm a little light. My first books were really YA, and in the beginning I was a little uncomfortable with writing intimacy, and I said I'll write teenagers, and then I was like,
Oh yeah.
but teenagers make out, and you have to write it, right? Even though you're not getting there, you're like, yeah, there are things there. Especially with a teenager, there's a lot, between A and B, there's this whole range that you're exploring, which is but I don't have a lot of details. I have had a sex scene, but not like as it's not described. Readers say that it's appropriate, like PG-13, but it's just not very explicit. In my new book, these two haven't gotten together, but there is some like almost getting there. But not nothing too explicit. But I also struggle like how far can I go? How far should I not go? Because most readers are adults and I'm here avoiding words, avoiding things. And why am I doing this if I'm not actually writing for teenagers? But on the other hand, I don't like it too much, I don't like it many and many scenes. I find it gets kind of
Mhm.
boring. It's a
A
balance, I think.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I tend to try to write what the story naturally leads into, I guess. I don't write any book with a specific romance in mind, and I just sort of let the characters take it where they will. With Val, I actually had sort of planned on her ending up with a guy she doesn't end up with, and actually
Mm.
wrote the ending meaning for her to end up with that guy, and it just felt really forced and contrived, and I went back and revised it, and I was like, oh duh, there's several scenes where it's like, well, obviously he was interested in this other person the whole time, and shifted it around. But I tend to write cleaner. Um, just, I don't know. I wouldn't call it fade to black, like you guys said. Just not really a whole lot of detail. I have one scene in Vow with Downfalls the Queen and Downfalls the King that came out. She is actually Ace, so she's Demi Ace. So there's no romance per se, but she still falls in love in the book. Just it looks a little different. And then, of course, in Splitting Dawn, it's a romance, and there is a lot of tension. But I think it's still going to be less descriptive, maybe. It's not going to be like full on spice there. So, I don't know. I think you can write adult fiction and fall into either spectrum, and that's great. And I'm super excited. And to the person who submitted the question, that was a great question because every romance writer
Yeah.
has different things that they like to include. So that sort of ties into the next question. And Dave, we're going to start with you this time. What got you into writing this specific genre of fantasy?
I like romance. I like a lot of romance in the book. I like romance and the fantasy, the killing the bad guy. So it kind of makes everything. I do love space opera, but I have one space opera out and it's sold like I don't know, I think it sold like 40 copies at most. And I'm not writing it anymore. So maybe I don't know, but I do love fantasy. Don't get me wrong. At the end, it's the same thing. It's magic. It's romance. It's finding yourself, defeating the bad guys. It's just where you put your story. And I think I like second world fantasy a lot.
Yes, I love that. I also have a big soft spot for reading space opera. It is one of my favorite genres, but I don't think I could ever actually write one. Uh,
I
so how
love it.
about you, S? What got you into
Uh,
this fantasy subgenre basically?
Basically. Well, I think I grew up around Disney a lot. So I think I always had, the fairy tales, the Prince Charming. There was always, some kind of magic, or most of them, I think there's some kind of magical element, things turning into dragons and whatnot. So I think that kind of always stuck with me as I grew up. And then the stories I wrote always reflected magic. And I kind of just liked the possibilities of fantasy. Like you can stretch the imagination even further. And especially like, as Day said, like other worlds, like you can do whatever you want. You can create languages and powers. And like, it's just so much fun to plan and create. And I think that's just what I find really exciting. Like, what can this world do? What can this magic system be? What can this person create or turn into? And yeah, so I just kind of like the exploration and the limitlessness of fantasy. And then I just love romance in general. So just they merge together perfectly. Yeah, I think that's why.
Awesome. Oh, and Becca, I know we've got you to answer too, but we have Linaris Fairy Tale says, I already loved Day and Becca's books, and now I have 2 new authors to check. Thank you so much.
Yay!
I had already dropped the link to Day's newest book in the chat, and I just dropped Becca's, and I'm actually just getting ready to pull up S's too. So S has a new book getting ready to come out in February called Echoes of the Crown that I have had on pre-order for forever. So, very excited. Very excited for that to come out. So Becca, how did you end up doing this subgenre of fantasy?
Okay. I think it probably all began with Lord of the Rings.
Yay!
Exactly. It was one of the first books I ever fully read for a whole series. But yeah, Legolas or not Legolas, Aragorn and Arwen were just like goals. You know, like I read them, I love them, they're amazing. They've got all of this chemistry and they can't be together, but then they want to be together, but then they can't be together. And I was just like, okay, that's great. I like that.
Yes.
So, right. So, yeah, that inspired a lot of my own writing. And, you know, I love the idea of that limitlessness of fantasy, and then bringing into it something that I think a lot of people can relate to with the romance and you know, sometimes it's forbidden, sometimes it's a romance that is quite new and it doesn't have the time that it needs to be able to flourish, and other times it's more of a slow burn, and the characters are, you know, slowly starting to get to know each other from more of a friendship base to romance. So I like being able to explore all of those different avenues, and yeah, it's that it all started with Lord of the Rings. Go figure.
That's a great one.
I've got a question.
Oh yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Oh, Katherine, I can't hear you.
The question: who is your favorite hero or villain you have ever written?
Yes, who's your favorite hero or villain? Sorry.
I can answer it. It's Cian from my series Portals to Island. He's a hero and a villain, so that's good.
Oh, I gotta think. You go first, Becca.
Okay. Okay. I think probably the villain from Sedendum, the god of death. He's a trickster god, and he was a lot of fun to write. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with him. I was just like all the like naughty things you should never do, or like the kind of questionable actions, and he's just he really, you know, goes for it. I love it.
Okay.
I don't know that I can pick a favorite. It's like picking between your kids.
I know.
I mean, I know which is.
But I think I've narrowed it. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to write Draco from Splitting Dawn, because he actually is the hero in Angel's Abdication and Angel's Ascendance, which are the 2 novellas coming out in April and August. But then he's the villain in Splitting Dawn, but I love him way more than I should. I wish he ended up doing some things differently. And he may or may not be the villain by the end of the book, depending on how I go with it, because I'm still writing it and I love him and I don't know if I can keep him the villain. But the hero one, I just don't know. There's too many. Like Maverick from The Ballad Twisted Fate was pretty high up there, but Lenev is also pretty high up there from Splitting Dawn. So I don't know. What about you, S?
So I think, after thinking about it, I think my favorite villain is Diaz, who is the villain in my very first series called The Last Elantris. And because he has such a good reason. Like, I almost sympathize with him, but he's bad. He's very, very bad, but he has such a good reason. And you kind of like, no, I shouldn't agree with you, but like, I completely understand where you're coming from. So I think I liked how relatable he was, but he was very bad. And then for my hero, I think that's probably from my latest series, the one that came out like a year ago, The Scarlet Court. I think I really like her. She's a bit spunky. She's very independent. There's a lot going on in her life, and you see how she struggles to navigate through it, but then also how she rises above it and everything. So I think I really like her. But then when my upcoming book, Echoes of the Crown, she's definitely who I love, but she's not released yet. But yeah, I think she's the top favorite.
Awesome. So yeah, I know we are right at time, but thank you all so much for taking the time to join with me on Saturday morning my time. It's Saturday evening for us.
Yeah.
And all of you guys who are viewing live, thank you. There's another live coming up later today, and that is going to be fairy tale retellings with Alice Avinia and Sky Summers and a couple other amazing authors. So yeah, we'd love for you to join in live. And if you're watching the recording, all the links, I hope, crossing my fingers, should still pop up in the chat. Check out Day's new book and
Yes.
Becca's fundraiser / needlework, and S's new pre-order, which is coming out next month. And I'm so excited. And then Realm of Darkness, which is the box set Splitting Dawn will be in, because it's only 99 cents to get all of the 40 books right now.
Amazing.
And I'm sending the openings. I don't know that a lot of people are sharing much of their books yet, but I'm actually sending the opening chapters out for free to anybody who sends me their receipt showing that they pre-ordered. Because I just can't not talk about the book. I'm so tired of not talking about the book. But this has been such an honor, seriously. S and Becca and Day, this has just been huge. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks for having us.
So much.
Yeah.
You take care. I wish you all the best in 2022.
Bye.
You too. Bye. Bye.